Greetings and salutations, Scribblers. Thank you so much for watching. Today, we're going to be talking about shelved manuscripts, their value, and whether or not they're worth revisiting throughout your writing career. Shelving a manuscript is when you take a completed or semi-completed manuscript and you put it aside to concentrate on a new project. Any writer who has been in the game for a few years probably has a shelved manuscript or two, or maybe even doesn't. It's almost like a rite of passage to kind of pour your heart into a story and then just let go of it and move on. Shelved manuscripts happen for myriad reasons. Maybe the market isn't right, you stop feeling connected to the project, you realize you just aren't at the craft level that you need to be to write that book yet, and so on and so on. There is no one reason to shelve a manuscript, and each person's journey to that point and feelings surrounding those stories will be different. So for me, each of my shelved manuscripts are pieces of my heart. I have four, one of which I have zero plans on ever reviving. But the other three, those are still very much on the table for me. When I was writing them, my world really revolved around those characters, the plot, the setting, all of those different things. I was confident in them, and in writing them, I just had a lot of fun. Not saying that it was always easy, but definitely had a lot of fun. I could see how much I've grown as a writer, not only from manuscript to manuscript, but also from draft to draft. So sometimes when I go back and I look at those, I'm like, wow, like this is where I started and look where I am now. Each of those three manuscripts, I queried all three. I queried all four of them, to be clear. The first one really did, like it was not ready by any means, which I think is also a common experience for a lot of writers. That first manuscript you write, you're just so like innocent of the world of publishing and querying and some of the difficulties there. And we just send it out because we're so excited that we have actually completed this huge work. So that one also crashed and burned. But I queried all of my manuscripts and I had requests on a full for all of them, including that one that was not so great, right? Each of those passes praised my writing. They expressed the merit that they saw in the work, but they ultimately just didn't feel that it was the best fit for them. And basically, I had to accept that each one of those manuscripts was not going to get me what I wanted and then put them off to the side and find something new to work on. So I'm unsure whether my current project, this will be manuscript number 5, is going to join them or not. So I, of course, hope it doesn't, and I hope that it gets out into the world once it's ready. But that will be up for publishing to decide if it passes muster or not. And basically, I've gone on a small tangent here, but I'm not here to talk about the woes of querying. There are lots of other places you can read about that, or if you're lucky enough, you can experience for yourself. Instead, I want to talk about the value of shelved manuscripts and whether they're worth revisiting them as you continue your writing career. So my opinion is an unequivocal yes to revisiting them. Why? Why would I suggest that we poke at these tender places in your hearts that may never truly heal? Because these are all pieces of what we wrote and we put out into the world, right? So first off, personally, I'm a little bit masochistic in matters of the heart, and there's a lot to unpack there psychologically, but having my heart broken is familiar. It's safe. It's something I know. So revisiting those projects that didn't perform the way I wanted them to is kind of a strange comfort in that for me. Um, and when I kind of get into some of those funky spots with my writing, we've all been there, right? Where you're feeling really good about your writing, but at the same time, you're also like, this is never going to be enough. This will never be what it needs to be. So you're simultaneously really confident and happy with it, and then also just not sure about it. There's that uncertainty there, right? We've all been there. That's when I really like to go back to my shelved projects and read them. Sometimes it'll be a full read through. Sometimes I will cherry pick favorite scenes or chapters. But I found that when I go back to these projects, I fall in love with them again. And they still make me happy. And I get to see my progress as a writer, which is really big because sometimes we are so unaware of how much we've grown that the only way to see it is to look back at where we were 2 or 3 years ago. So we look back at that writing, we come back to it, to where we are now, and we're like, oh, like, yeah, I'm doing this so much better, and I'm a lot more intentional about some of the character things that I'm doing or the plot things. So when I reread, I will find passages and lines that remind me that I am good at this. And I'm like, I can't believe I wrote that. I did that. I was the one who created that. That came from this brain right here. Um, well, at the same time, I will also read bits and passages and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I thought that was any version of good. That is so cringy and wow, that's bad. But for the most part, I'm finding things that I've done really well and seeing places where I could make them even better. And the complexity of the story usually is clearer to me because I've had that distance and I've grown as a writer, and I can see a better way to present that story, deepen character voice, or increase reader engagement. So whether I go right into, I'll make notes kind of for myself about like, oh, if you revise this, here's what you could do. Or sometimes I will just dive into it because I'm just like, you feel it, right? And you just kind of follow your soul into that revision. And it makes it so much better. But regardless, I can now apply those same skills and things that I'm noticing to my current work, which is making it better. Um, Sometimes I have also realized that a book I thought was maybe ready for the young adult market would actually work better as an adult. Or maybe I should take out or add an entire point of view to a story. But either way, no matter what happens and what I learn from that, it is allowing me to take a critical look at my own personal writing process and to see that progress and where I've grown and how I've changed as a writer. So, remember how I said there was that one shelved manuscript that will likely never see the light of day? I do love it. I still love it, and I still love those characters. But I also know it's just never going to be viable. And also partially because the thought of overhauling it to make it what it would need to be in order to like be a really good project is just too much for me to think about. It just feels so overwhelming, and I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. So there are pieces that I really loved, and the rest was just not up to snuff. It was very first novel draft kind of written by me. I'm at the point though where I'm starting to salvage bits and pieces of it. For example, I just reused a name for my current manuscript because I realized that the original character that I had with that name is never going to exist outside of my head. So this new character in my current manuscript is just like a little homage to that character. It has some of those same traits and things, and I really love the name, and I was like, I have to use this one day. So now I am. So sometimes we can also take those shelved manuscripts. And they become our own personal junkyards, right? We can explore and pick from them to make our current manuscripts nice and shiny. So even though you've written it and maybe that manuscript as a whole might not see the light of day, elements of it could. You can pull from it and say, I really like this subplot. I really liked this setting or this little moment. And you just repurpose it, right? We just refinish it, put it in something new. Like recycle your work, right? So another example is I did a massive revision on a shelf project 2 years after I had queried it. And I've talked about this project before, but it really brought me like literal joy to go in and apply 2 years worth of writerly growth to that prose. Applying all of my new skills and experiences made it really fun to go through because I could so clearly see where I could do so much better and do so much more with my writing, with the characters, with the plot, and take some of those bigger risks that I think sometimes when we're beginning the writing process, we're a little bit worried about taking and we're a little bit nervous about putting ourselves out there. So, all of this to say, I think that shelved manuscripts are a valuable commodity, 2 thumbs up, 100%, to have as a writer. No matter whether you're agented or still querying, publishing kind of wants you to think that if a book doesn't succeed while being queried, that it will never get to see the light of day. I disagree with that wholeheartedly because, one, there's a rise in self-publication, right? So if your work doesn't fit in that narrow confine of what traditional publishing wants, you get to control your own destiny and you can publish it anyways, which is fantastic. Also, when you do find an agent, if you're still doing that traditional route, you get to work with that agent and promote your writing, and you can revisit all those shelved manuscripts and decide where and if they fit, or you can draw out specific elements to put into something new. So none of it is going to go to waste. It's all part of your journey, right? Each one shows how you've developed your craft or experimented with new things. So that's how I feel about it. For me, each manuscript I have shelved or ready to go out into the query trenches, they are notches on my wall of how I've grown. And when I look back at my past writing, I do laugh at some of the awkward phrases and cringy bits, but overall, I'm always like, I made this, I did this, and this is so cool. These people, this world, this dialogue, all of these things. And it's a huge boost for me. So instead of looking at my shelved manuscript as failed projects, I like to think of them more like a well-aged whiskey. And people will someday pay out big money just to get a taste of what I have to offer because it's been sitting on the shelf for so long and it's just aged and it's beautiful, right? Um, so if you are looking to pull a shelved manuscript out and do a revision, the Scribblers Den does offer a fantastic revision course that will help guide you along that journey. We also offer one-on-one coaching through the revision process or developmental editing. All of these are linked below, so make sure you check those out. And tell me in the comments, do you have a favorite shelved manuscript? Do you reread your work from time to time? Just let us know. I want to know what you guys do. In the meantime, Scribblers, make sure you click that like and that subscribe button so that you receive all the notifications of when we post new videos. Happy writing, and we'll see you next time.